This is MacVoices TV. MacVoices TV is brought to you by Tropical Software, the makers of Top 10 Notes. Check it out at tropic4.com.
Let's take a look at InDesign, see what we've been doing there. Now, InDesign is our page layout program. So again, InDesign is where you do your books and your multiple pages and your newsletters and all the things that you create that are longer type documents. Can you do a one-page flyer in InDesign? Sure. Can you do a one-page flyer in Illustrator? Sure. Can you do a one-page flyer in Photoshop? Yeah, some people do that too. The programs do have some overlap, but the right tool for the right job. So if I'm going to do something a little bit more complex where I'm going to be bringing in content from other people, photos and things like that, InDesign is going to be my best choice for this. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bounce over to page 10. And right tool for the right job, I'm going to stop using the pen and use the mouse. And I'm going to zoom into this area down here. Now, remember when I said that no one's asking to make it more complex, they're asking to make it easier and faster? Well, what do you do in InDesign all the time? You're placing content. You're placing photos, you're placing text, or you're typing the text in the program. You're doing one of those three things all the time. So we wanted to make placing content even easier and faster and better than we did with CS3. CS3, we brought out that fabulous multi-place feature that you can grab a bunch of items and place them all at the same time and build your frames for them. There's one caveat or one problem with that though. And this is one thing that I never used to really do inside of InDesign because it was always multiple step process anyway, so I just never used this feature. And that is, if I placed a photo, I would either create the frame for it first, or I would place the photo at 100% size and size it down. I would do one of the two, but I would never place and size at the same time because I don't know the aspect ratio of the photo. So I would end up resizing it anyway. So it was always going to be a two-step process no matter what I did. That has now changed. So for example, I have one photo already here. I'm going to pop over to Adobe Bridge, which comes with all of our products. And in Bridge, I'm going to go to my InDesign folder here, and I'm going to go to my links folder, and I have a proportional place folder. So there's the one photo that's already in place. I'm going to grab my next photo that's going to come in next to that. So now, how do I bring that into InDesign? Well, I could play the window jockeying thing of moving this over and dragging it in, but I don't like to do it that way, and you shouldn't either. So I'm going to go to my File menu, and I'm going to choose Place in InDesign, because Bridge knows about the other CS4 applications I have installed. So when I say Place in InDesign, it pops me over to InDesign like it always did, and at this point, in CS3 on down, I would just click. I would kind of line it up and then click and then worry about sizing it and getting it in the right spot after the fact, because I didn't draw a frame first. Now in CS4, I get the best of both worlds. I didn't draw the frame first, and I can still do the same thing, but instead of clicking, I'm going to kind of line it up to where I think it should be, and instead of clicking, I'm going to click and drag. And now when I click and drag, InDesign will not let me stretch the photo. It's going to keep the photo in the proportions of the photo that's coming in because it knows what those proportions are. Finally, I get one-step proportional placing without having to worry about a two-step process. Now, there's something else that's even cooler. I'm showing you two things at once. I'm showing you proportional placing, and I'm showing you the new Smart Guides feature. When I get this sized to be the exact size as the one already there, watch what happens. The green guides kick in, letting me know I can let go now. They're the exact size. And so I'll let go, and that one, I don't have to guess, it's the exact same size as the other one. Now let's go back to Bridge. I'm going to grab 2 this time. File, Place in InDesign. Pops me back over to InDesign. My cursor is loaded with both of them now. I can even use my arrow key to switch back and forth between which one I want to place next. And now let's say I want to place that one next. As soon as I get my cursor lined up, notice, and it's real hard to see this, but you notice that when I get it, I didn't show this earlier because I wanted to show it now. When you get these lined up, the arrow changes white to let you know that you can start dragging now. It's already lined up with the one that's next to it. So I'm going to go ahead and start dragging. And again, smart guides kick in to let me know it's the exact same size as the one next to it. Let go of that one, and I'm going to exaggerate this one. I'm going to spread it out further and drag that one in, and now that one's the exact same size. So I've achieved placing, building the frame, getting them all the same size all at once. There's one thing left, and I exaggerated it on purpose. They're not all the same spacing between each other. So now, could I grab all four and say align and distribute and all that stuff like I always did? Sure. That stuff doesn't go away. You still have your align and distribute panel. You can do all that mathematically stuff. You can do it all you want. But I want to take advantage of smart guides. So I'm going to first of all just grab my move tool or my selection tool. I'm going to go ahead and just move these, kind of stagger them a little bit. Because first I want to concentrate on the spacing between two. So I'm going to pull this one up, and I'm going to space it to where I like it. So I like the spacing right there. Now, I didn't mathematically do it. I didn't look at a ruler or anything. You can do all that. But to me, my eye, that's the spacing I want. Now I want the next one to be obviously the same spacing as the first two. So as soon as I move that up into place, and as soon as I move that over, notice the guides in between all three of them now at the bottom. So those smart guides are letting me know if you let go right now, you've got equal spacing between all three. Same thing here, I'll just drag it over. As soon as that smart guide kicks in, I've now got equal spacing between those three. And so, without bringing any rulers up, any extra panels, any extra clicks or features, I've got all the objects placed, and I've got them all sized, and I've got them all spaced apart evenly. Now, they're not spaced evenly on the page, which that's another issue I could deal with, but I've got them all evenly spaced apart from each other. All right, so let's move on a little bit here. I'm going to zoom out. And I'm going to show you a feature that is kind of cool. And it really, in order for me to really demonstrate it, I think it's best to show it to you on a new document from scratch. So I'm going to create a new document. Valid entry, what do I do? There we go. All right, so I got this new document, and the feature I'm going to show you now is kind of interesting. It's called conditional text. So I'm going to create a text frame. I'm going to zoom into it. I just hit Command 2 to zoom in at 200%. I'm going to bring up my panels here. I'm going to go to text, type in tables. And I don't want cross-referencing. I want, or do I want cross-referencing? No, I don't. That's another new feature is cross-referencing. But what I want, I am drawing a blank. What do I want? Oh, that's why. There we go. I want conditional text. Okay, so conditional text.
It's for your share thing.
Thanks. Conditional text is a new feature in CS4. And in order to I didn't get it at first. I saw people do this, and I was like, how's that any different than a layer? I just didn't understand the feature. InDesign, Illustrator, and Photoshop have layers that can be turned on and off. And we've used those layers in the past to demonstrate how you could have one document. Let's say you have a price list. You have one pricing for US versus pricing for Canada, or pricing for user groups versus pricing for everybody else. So that would be just a matter of putting the prices for each one on each layer and turning the layers on and off, right? Well, conditional text takes that concept but it takes it a couple steps further. First of all, in order for me to use layers, the frame has to be on a layer. With conditional text, the conditions can exist within one frame. Multiple conditions can exist inside one text frame. With layers, if I turn a layer on and off, it doesn't do anything with text wrap. Okay, so if I turn a layer off, the layer just disappears. If I turn it on, it turns back on. But things won't move up and down as a result of that object being gone or back again. So once I got my head around that, then I understood more about how beneficial conditional text could be. So for example, let's say that we start typing, or we'll type one condition. Here, actually I need to be in it. Here at Macworld Expo, the user group price for admission is the same as everyone else. I'm joking, everyone else. Okay. Now, that's one condition, okay? That's called unconditional right now. It's just, that's the way it looks no matter what. Now what I want to do is add some new conditions. I want to add a condition called Macworld. All right, so first of all, I'm going to highlight the text that applies to that, Macworld Expo, and I'm going to add a condition called Macworld. All right, so and it will highlight with a blue wavy line underneath anything that's using the condition. Oh, I added it, but I didn't apply it. There we go. It'll highlight anything that uses that condition with a blue wavy line. So, Macworld Expo, the user group price for admission is the same as everyone else. That will be the other condition, or the other part of that condition. So now, there are two things that meet that condition. Macworld Expo, same as everyone else. Now what I want to do is turn off Macworld condition. So I can say here at CES, the price for admission is 30% less than everyone else. Oh wait, hang on, put it in the wrong spot. Ooh, that should be part of the Macworld condition, that's the problem. All right, so let's turn that back on for now, make that part of the condition. Okay, good. And so should that space. There we go. All right, so now let's turn that condition off. There we go. The price for, here at CS, the user group price for admission is 30% less than everyone else. Okay, so now I want to make another new condition called CES. Click OK. And so I want to highlight, obviously, CES, make that part of the CES condition, and 30% less than everyone else, make that part of the CES condition. So here's the, and if you haven't already guessed what can happen here, is that now, if I'm printing the CES version of my brochure, my document, I turn that condition on and all the CES text appears in all the various places. If I'm printing the Macworld version of this, then I turn on the Macworld version and all my Macworld text appears throughout the entire document. And I can have as many conditions as I want, and I can even group multiple conditions together to make a condition. So, or set, I should call it. So I can have as many of these as I want and continue to work with them and play with them. And notice the difference with a layer is that I couldn't do it all in one frame. And with a layer, I wouldn't have the ability to do text wrap like I'm doing now. So once I understood those are the differences from what we already had with layers to now a much more powerful use of conditional text, it made a lot more sense to me. So that's conditional text inside of InDesign CS4. I'm going to do a couple more things. Thank you. I'm going to do a couple more things here. Let's zoom out. Let's collapse this. Or actually, let's pull that over. And let's go here. There it is. Okay, InDesign, of course, since day one has been able to type on any angle. Type on any angle 360 degrees. You can type on the side, type diagonally, type whatever way you want. Well, it's been possible to do things like this since day one. And InDesign's text tool is even smart enough that when I'm over text that's horizontal, it gives me that orientation. When I'm over text that's vertical, it gives me that orientation. So I can still make my edits no matter what. The problem, though, is that that doesn't mean it was always easy to type on the side or type upside down or whatever. So what would people do in the interim if they had to make a lot of edits? Turn it horizontal first, make all your changes, then turn it back. So now we've just made it a little bit easier. So I'm going to go to my, my view menu and rotate spread. So I can now rotate the spread 90 degrees counterclockwise to make my changes. That does not rotate printing or anything else. That's just my visual in the application. I can rotate the entire spread. So now instead of a left and right page, I have a top and bottom page to make all my changes. Now you're probably saying, yeah, who cares? I don't ever do that. Don't need it. Won't ever use that. And I already teased Dave about won't ever use that. So here's where you would use this. Not so much for this example of you needed to edit something that was on its side, but the question I used to always get with InDesign is, if I'm doing a calendar and there is a top page for the picture or whatever and a bottom page for all the months and whatever, can InDesign do a spread from top and bottom instead of left and right? And the answer is still no, it can't. But now, if I wanted to design a calendar, I can rotate my spread long enough to design the whole thing and then turn it back for printing. Once it comes out of the printer, do this and you're all set. Okay? Just turn it and you're all set. Put it up on the wall, you're good to go. So it will print sideways, no problem. Turn it and you're all done. So there are uses for this beyond just editing for design of documents to overcome you can't have a top and bottom spread. Now you can at least design one. So once you're all done, of course, if you forgot how you rotated it, you can just say clear rotation, and that will put it back to the way it was. One last thing before I move on to another app, and we'll zoom in down here. Actually, I didn't mean to make that change, undo. You notice that there is a button down here that says one error. Okay, it's a red dot and it says one error. What is that? Well, InDesign, pretty much since day one, has had preflighting. But preflighting has always been after the fact. You finish the document, you run package or preflight, and it tells you all the things that are wrong with it. At the end, when you're up against deadline, when the document's due, you get to find out everything that's wrong with it. You're missing fonts, you're missing a link graphic, you're missing this, you're missing that, this is RGB, it should be, all the things that could be wrong. You find out at the end. Because it can't know until you've done it that it's something wrong until now. So InDesign now has something called active preflight. So it is constantly monitoring the document for your conditions, your profiles, to tell you if there's anything not matching the document anytime you make a mistake. So if I had 3 things that didn't match what I told it to look for, I would have 3 errors. And it's letting me know all the time if anything's wrong or not. So if I go down here and I say, preflight panel, that will let me know that, hey, there's one error and it has something to do with text. Well, what does it have to do with text? Oh, there's an overset text situation. Oh my God, I have 100 pages. Where? Oh, it's on a text frame on page 2. Oh, I don't know how to get to page 2. Take me there. Great, there I am on page 2, and there's my overset situation. So it's monitoring the document constantly to let me know if there's something wrong or not. And now that I see that there's a problem with overset, if I just make this frame big enough to hold that last line, that error goes away. I've now got a green dot. I can keep working. So I don't have to wait till the end to find out what's wrong with my document or if there are any mistakes. Now, how do you tell it what to look for? Because some things are important to some people and other things aren't. So if I go to my preflight options, no, sorry about that. If I go to my define profiles, there we go. If I go to my define profiles, it will let you decide or choose. Now I'm on the basic one that ships with the program, so if I wanted to edit this, I'd have to make a copy of it. But it lets me monitor for missing links. It lets me monitor for any kind of color situations. Maybe you don't want to use transparency. Maybe you don't want to use RGB, or maybe you don't want to use whatever. It lets me monitor for images that are of certain resolutions. Maybe you placed a low-res graphic and you don't want any low-res graphics in your document. Monitor for that. Maybe you accidentally placed something that is non-proportional. It's stretched. You know, let me know that, hey, something got stretched by accident. I don't want any of my images stretched. Text, let me know if there's anything that's overset, any fonts missing, any glyphs missing, so forth and so on. So you can have it monitor the entire document for all of these. Hey, I don't want any extra blank pages. You know, monitor for all the little things that we forget or may overlook until the very end. And so that is a little taste of InDesign CS4.
MacVoices TV is brought to you by Tropical Software, the makers of Top 10 Notes. Check it out at tropic4.com. MacVoices TV is part of the MacVoices group and a member of Mac Level 10.